Welcome to Talk is Sheep, the official podcast of the Wild Sheep Society of British Columbia. Brought to you by our title sponsor, Mountain Tough Fitness Lab. Come along with us as we take conversations that matter to you into the high alpine. We have partnered with Mountain Tough Fitness Lab to help get you in shape and mentally stronger. Whether you're a veteran hunter or just starting out, the Mountain Tough app will take you to the next level. We personally train using the Mountain Tough programs, and we believe in it so much that we want to give you 6 weeks for free using code SHEEPBC. That's SHEEPBC. Check out Mountain Tough Fitness Lab. You won't be disappointed. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Talk is Sheep. We are live, and today's a really cool podcast. I'm really excited about this. The Wild Sheep Foundation and Wild Sheep Society BC has had an opportunity to work together on an exciting new film, and we're going to be debuting it here very shortly, and I can't wait to talk about it. I've had the opportunity to be involved on the periphery with this, but we've got the two heavy lifters in the room today with Renée Thornton, Chair of the Women Hunt program through the Wild Sheep Foundation, and Rebecca Peters, Chair of the Women Shaping Conservation through the Wild Sheep Society BC. And we've got a special guest today as well. We're joined by President and CEO of the Wild Sheep Foundation, Renée Thornton, who obviously was a big part of this as well. So welcome all of you to the Talk is Sheep podcast. Great to have you on.
Great to be on.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Well, there's lots to talk about today, but really the main focus for us is the new film, Beyond Bonds. And I think before we even sort of dive into the film itself, I think it might be just prudent to touch a little bit about who each of you are, sort of your involvement in the film on a very high level capacity, and sort of where you fell into making this film and how it came about. So let's start off with you, Renée, and you can talk a little bit about your involvement, the Women Hunt program, and we'll go from there.
Sure thing. Thanks. Well, briefly, my involvement in the film was Rebecca and Colin Peters approached me and Gray with this concept to make the film. It, from my perspective, the genesis was the creation of Women Hunt several years ago through Wild Sheep Foundation, led to a great cadre of women who came through our program in the first year in 2021, and Rebecca was one of the inaugural members. And one of the things that we pride ourselves with Women Hunt is giving back. We instill these principles of giving back, and Rebecca came back to British Columbia and really quickly started formulating, I think, in her mind, or maybe she was even doing it before, I don't know, but this concept of creating women shaping conservation under the society. And so my involvement was as I understand from Rebecca back in that call so many months ago, that she, envisioned this opportunity to continue to give back to Women Hunt with this concept of inviting me to hunt black bear with her in British Columbia, in an area that she and her husband are very familiar with and have hunted frequently, and introduced me to a new way of hunting black bear and mentoring me, which was, I thought, such a great flip to mentor the mentor. So essentially my participation and role there was as the shooter, as the hunter, being mentored by somebody that I had mentored. There's a lot of themes in this film I'm sure we'll talk about over the next hour, but I ultimately really embraced this concept of women coming together to support one another and close that circle of giving.
That's awesome, Renée. Very, very cool. And there's so many things I'm looking forward to diving into on that whole, everything you talked about there. Before we do that, though, let's touch base sort of from your perspective, Rebecca, and sort of your involvement and touch maybe a little bit on sort of where this concept came from, where its roots are.
Thank you, Kyle. Yeah. So just to kind of touch base just a little bit on what Renée said as well, when I was part of the Women Hunt program back in 2021, it ignited a spark in me. I wanted to have something like that in here in BC where we could help women in conservation and hunting. And I was so inspired and empowered by that program that we here in BC came up with a program called the Women Shaping Conservation Program. And I just really fell hard into all of it because I really felt that part of the Wild Sheep Foundation's Women Hunt program is giving back. And I think it's such an important part of it all, is learning to be of service and giving back. And so I I just, threw myself into this the next year after the Women Hunt program. And how Beyond Bonds kind of came to be, about a year after the program is we were sitting around my kitchen table. I was hosting a lunch before doing a Women Shaping Conservation event, which I had asked Renée to come and speak at this event. It was our first event, and we were all really excited about it. And we were chatting about predator hunting, and someone mentioned, "Hey, why don't you guys do a bear film?" And what, Kyle, I think it was you, but I'm not 100% sure. But so you kind of gave us that idea, and we thought that would be a really really good idea. Showcasing women in the hunting and predator space. It was also very relevant to me too because that was my first hunting experience with my husband, and so I was familiar with bears and hunting in the areas that my husband and I hunted in, and it was actually my first harvest as well. But primarily, I wanted to give back in another way where we could continue to inspire and empower women to get out into the hunting space, to care about conservation. And I really felt strongly about collaborating with Renée, the Wild Sheep Foundation Women Hunt program. And so that's kind of how that started from there.
Awesome, Rebecca. So, Gray, we look at the Women Hunt program, and this has been incredibly successful. It's done so well, I think far beyond any expectation that I had for the program. Renée, you've done a phenomenal job on it. But Gray, can you maybe kind of go back into the early days, the genesis of Women Hunt and the program and how it came about and how we got to where we are today, just kind of in a nutshell, more so from an organizational perspective. I'll let Renée talk to the Women Hunt program specifically, but from an organizational perspective, if you could touch on that for us, please.
Yeah, you bet, Kyle, and thank you for the opportunity. Part of Wild Sheep Foundation's mission is education and engaging various demographics in that education. And just a interesting and funny story. And it could be a podcast in itself. But Renée is a late onset hunter, as am I. And she had met a couple of the Wild Sheep Foundation staff at a Wild Sheep Society, or actually, no, I'm sorry, it was at a WSF Alberta event. Then I know she was involved in Wild Sheep Society BC as well. But long and short, she likes to fly fish up in northwest Montana. She's an Alberta girl, and she was going to be doing her annual fly fishing trip, and she contacted Kevin Hurley, our Vice President of Conservation, and said, "Hey, I'm going to be in northwest Montana. I see you guys have an open house coming up in July. Can I come down? Can I volunteer? Or is it going to be worthwhile?" So Kevin invited her down. And long story short, she met our then chair of the board of directors, Brett Jefferson. And Brett and Renée were downtown Bozeman, kind of after, I think, after the event, or maybe before the open house, and Renée was sharing with Brett her story, kind of her journey of how a single woman, non-hunter who is interested in hunting, would like to get involved in this community, and it was a choice. I mean, she had it's her story. I'll certainly let her wax poetic on it, but one of the primary reasons, and And I look at Rebecca, one of the primary reasons I know Rebecca hunts is to know where their protein comes from and source their protein from a sustainable, ethical, and healthy source, wild game. So, that was part of Renee's journey, and she shared that journey with Brett. And Brett called me and said, "Hey, man, you gotta hear this gal's story." And so Renee and I met, and I heard her story, and I thought, man, this is compelling. And Brett said, we should really start a program. We've got a youth education program, we've got a number of outreach programs, but we don't have an outreach program to bring women into the conservation and hunting community. So the genesis was actually Renee's story and Brett saying, let's do it. And as chair, he could. So he established, at that point, they called it the Women in Hunting Initiative, or WEHE. And it kind of morphed from there. And then long and short, Renee and I have a very, very close friend down in Texas, a guy named Tim Fallon. He is the founder and owner of FTW Ranch. And he was embarking on a new training program. They do precision rifle. They do a lot with the militaries around the world, Canadian, U.S., Israeli, and the like on bottom line sniper training. But they also provide hunter training. And that was really the genesis of their Sportsman's All-Weather, All-Terrain Marksmanship Program, or SAM. Well, they came out with a program, a new hunter program. And Kyle, you and I have chatted about this for many, many years, and over a cold beer or a whiskey of, how do we get more hunters into the field and into our space. And it is a challenge, and it's even more challenging for a woman to get into this game. Well, long and short, FTW and their SAM program came up with a new hunter course. Tim invited Renee and I to come down and take a peek at it and see, number one, how the course ran, and then give any feedback. And it was a superb soup to nuts training program, and Renee envisioned that, hey, this is a way that we can really kick off this Women in Hunting, and then it morphed into a little shorter term Women Hunt program where they would actually host 12 new women hunters from throughout North America. And bring them down to this course. And, as Renee spoke, Rebecca was in the inaugural 2021 class, which was just an exceptional group of diverse women from a variety of livelihoods, a variety of backgrounds, variety of ages, a variety of ethnicities. I mean, it's just incredible. And now year 3 of that particular program, which is just one facet of Woman Hunt, there's now 36 women that have participated in the program. And as Renee and Rebecca pointed out, a huge component of that is giving back. And the Women Hunt program now has 36 ambassadors who, in their way, and each unique way, are giving back to other women. And as Renee and Rebecca both pointed out, what was so cool is Rebecca's vision was, building a similar program through Wild Sheep Society of BC called Women Shaping Conservation. So, there's a somewhat short version of it. There's a lot more to it, but it's an extremely important component of the Wild Sheep Foundation now. The support for it is universal from very unique donors. Our slew of usual suspects and great supporters of Wild Sheep Foundation joined right in very, very quickly. But what amazes me, Kyle, is, we now have support from Namibia in Africa, from women that have not, and donors and outfitters that haven't really been as engaged in Wild Sheep Foundation for a variety of reasons. Maybe they're an elk outfitter, but now because they see this program and the opportunity to create certainly new sheep hunters, but most important to create new hunter conservationists. So the support is phenomenal. The program continues to grow. And, as CEO, obviously I'm proud of the program, but I'm extremely proud of Renée, and who is now my wife, but that's a different story. So anyway, there you go.
Oh, fantastic. Great. I think we could do a podcast on that very last subject too.
No.
that itself. All joking aside. So let's talk a little bit about, so you've talked about Women Hunt and the new hunter course and the 36 ambassadors you have, Renée, but let's talk a little bit about, this is kind of, you guys have done an amazing job in terms of articulating what Women Hunt is. The content you produce is obviously always to the highest level, which is expected from the foundation, so very consistent with the theme there. But I know that you pay particular attention to that, Renée. So this is kind of a new, I guess, leaf, if you will, the film Beyond Bonds for Women Hunt, certainly for women shaping conservation as well. So maybe if you could just touch a little bit about the importance of this film, sort of what you guys were hoping to achieve and some of the goals that you had in mind with creating this product and sort of the genesis behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I could just add something before I dive into that that's related. We talked about how Gray just did a deep dive into the genesis and the course, but that course is just one aspect of the journey for the women that we bring through. And the second part is the mentorship, and I'm mentioning that because it ties in directly to the film Beyond Bonds, and then the third prong, of course, is giving back, which also ties into the film as well. And as Gray briefly mentioned, all the women are out and about doing things to give back. And I just wanted to reiterate that one of the things that we like to reinforce is giving back to the Wild Sheep Foundation and its chapters and affiliates, because the chapters and affiliates play a big role in supporting the women when they go through the course, through helping offset the costs, to helping to find a mentor for the women when they come out of the course, so that they're not just out there without any support afterward. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, that the foundation and the chapters and affiliates, are obviously, in addition to our generous sponsors and donors, are so critical to the women's journeys. And this all, I believe, ties into the film. Every woman is doing something different for giving back, and Rebecca's approach to starting Women Shaping Conservation is so exciting. And so, for the film for me represents so many different things. It captures many different things, and it's a vehicle for a lot of different things. And I'm delighted that it can be a tool for the society and Women Shaping Conservation to move forward your vision and what you want to accomplish for British Columbia residents and the women who live there, their families, their husbands, everybody, and the whole conservation piece. And equally for Women Hunt and the Wild Sheep Foundation, it's such a great story for us to share, not just within our community, but beyond. And the film, we talk about, it's just lovely when you watch it, I think, to see what a great job the filmmakers did over the course of the 6 days we spent together, taking I don't know how many hours of footage and images and finding all these threads and themes that, I think we knew, and we did talk about some of them, but some of them, to me, reveal themselves in the most organic way in this film. And they're themes that transcend every hunter's experience, or any person really who is in the outdoors, who might have, or seeking fellowship and mentorship, the bond that women have. I could talk about this for 30 minutes just myself. So, Kyle, I think I'm straying a bit here. Did you want me to talk specifically about something, or?
Yeah, no, I think just keep rolling with it, Renée. This is
Okay.
exactly the reason. Yeah. And some of the, what I really want to dive into at some point, and you can do this now, is some of these themes that did take away, because it's one thing to go on a film, but it's another thing to go on a film or to go on a hunt, but then to film it on top of it, right? And I think that, and I'm curious to have that, because I know it's bloody stressful. I know what it's like just carrying a camera around in the woods. It's difficult, and I can't imagine having someone there in your face for 6 days straight. So yeah, dive right in, please.
Okay. Yeah, well, you bring up a good point. That was a new experience for me. I'd never been filmed before, and that was a huge learning curve. But I do want to say that, Rebecca and Colin did an absolutely yeoman's job at pulling this together. All of the coordination and planning, the camp, the logistics, all the logistics of setting up the camp, and they carried that above and beyond everything else that we were all involved in. So, that really needs to be acknowledged, the effort that went into that. And, the piece around the filming was a really interesting journey for me, that's for sure. The filmmakers were great. Tash and Jesse were very easy to work with, and they, Tash did a great job. He was the one who did, the actual filming. Jesse was taking still images, and so we were mic'd, and it was Jesse who could hear us all the time. And he had this big talk with Rebecca and I before we got started about how, from the time the mic goes on to the time it comes off at the end of the day, he can hear us at all times, and it's really an interesting impact to my psychology. It took some getting used to, that's for sure. But what was great is that as we saw some of the early cuts of the film and caught ourselves or saw on film that I'll just speak for myself, suddenly, occasionally using an off-color word or mumbling something or whatever. And it was a good illustration for me to realize that, as self-conscious as I was through that, at some point I clearly got used to it, and I wasn't thinking about the fact that Tash could hear everything I was saying anymore. That was really cute, curious. But I don't know. I think Rebecca, you had some similar feelings, I think.
Yeah, you've the last couple of minutes of you talking is really well said, Renee, like a really good articulation of kind of what was happening out there in our bear hunt. And I echo everything you say, but one thing that actually came to my mind, being filmed brings up its own pressures when you're hunting. It adds a little bit more pressure to the hunt, and it's mostly just our own individual expectations. And so I was concerned, this is going to sound funny, I can't believe I'm sharing this, but I was concerned what do I need, what about when I need to go to the washroom? Like, the mic's on, you guys are going to hear me. And that was actually one of my main concerns. And Jesse's like, oh my goodness, Rebecca, it's okay. You can turn off your mic and then nobody will hear you. And I was like, oh, okay, great. I'm good to go. Like, let's go. It was my only concern.
Yeah, you're right. Remember that now. Gosh. Yeah. And that was another thing, Kyle, is even just getting used to Tash following the two of us everywhere. And there's this camera right here at all times. And I certainly felt a high level of self-consciousness in the beginning. I almost felt like I had to try to act, and they kept course correcting me. Just be natural. Don't look at us, and just do your thing. And that was an adjustment for sure too. And you're right, Rebecca. You're bang on. For me, it certainly added a different level of pressure to the experience that I don't think I fully realized would happen. So that was interesting. And then, another thing too, you just, by mentioning that, Rebecca, you reminded me that I had a whole other level of pressure, Kyle, where not everybody, 4 of us, I think, Rebecca, had tags. Me as a non-resident, and then yourself and Colin, and who am I forgetting? Somebody else had a tag.
I'm not sure if one of either Tiffany. Jesse or Tash, maybe.
Tiffany.
Oh, Tiffany. Yeah.
Yeah. And without even realizing, I had started to put all this pressure on myself to be successful quickly so that other hunters had an opportunity. And I didn't realize it was a subconscious thought and a subconscious level of pressure I had put on myself. And I don't remember exactly on which day I suddenly realized that was happening, but we talked about it, Rebecca, and Rebecca did a great job of reminding, basically just alleviating that pressure for me by telling me no, it's just a bonus if anybody else can, and not to try to remove that sense of urgency.
Yeah, Renee, that was a great pressure being the first to get to hunt and have an opportunity to see a bear and shoot a bear if that was to happen. And you did a really great job at recognizing that. And I think that you were able to work through that as quickly as possible and just get into enjoying the hunt and enjoying those days and, alleviating that pressure from yourself that, this hunt was going to work out the way it was going to work out, right? And I think that you did a good job at realizing that because that was your pressure. And then, I had my own pressures, and on this hunt, we both had different pressures and we both had different roles. And when we have I know for myself, when I put those expectations on myself, I kind of was detaching from what the big picture of everything looked like. And I feel like over the days too, I was able to let go of the pressures that I was feeling and be more involved in the hunt and not thinking about being filmed or listened to. And there was like way more enjoyment in that. But I don't think that's what a lot of people talk about when they talk about bear films. Like there is a big pressure there, and I definitely noticed it. And maybe it gets easier as you go into doing more films. I'm not sure, but definitely experience.
Let's just touch a little bit on the fact that you guys were bear hunting. So it's an interesting choice. So I talked a little bit early on about what was some of the goals, and so obviously awareness of the two programs is important. Clearly, obviously a film that involves women where they're the two central characters. There's a lot of great themes there, but it's interesting that a bear hunt was chosen, which can sometimes be, it's a controversial issue, right? Some people really struggle with predators and understanding bear hunting. There's the whole anti-side of things. Talk a little bit about the significance of the bear hunt and the importance in the film as opposed to maybe because you could have come up and done a hunt in BC for elk or deer or some other species, Renee. So maybe just if the two of you don't mind touching a little bit on the predator aspect of it and the importance of that in the film. And I know, Renee, you're super passionate about predators on any given day. So I'm sure you can run with this one a little bit for us.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think one of the neat things about Rebecca and I is we share a few things in common in our hunting journey. And one of them is that both of our first harvests were black bear. And we've discussed it before. That's not a typical first hunt. Although I would argue that it is a pretty neat first hunt and pretty accessible, but that's a different conversation. But we definitely share that in common, and we both share a passion for predator hunting and bear hunting, and we both love to eat bear meat and utilize the bear, and we like to talk about that because it is so misunderstood. For the entire concept is so misunderstood. And people, even hunters who either hunt bear or don't hunt bear, I hear from both a shock when they learn that we like to eat bear meat and utilize other parts of the bear in cooking. And so, I think for myself, I don't want to speak for Rebecca, but I think it was such a perfect fit. And I think it made such great sense because it was the big genesis of both of our journeys as hunters individually. And then it was a beautiful hunt for us to do together, to tie in all those other things we've already been talking about and we'll continue to talk about our programs and what this film discusses and explores and reveals. And, so for myself, it made perfect sense.
Yeah, absolutely, Renee. And another thing we kind of had in common or similar ideas was, we wanted to encourage the average woman. And I hate to have like a label on somebody or title anybody, but the average woman to like step outside and just start exploring hunting in the conservation space. And I also felt that it was important in the film to recognize the style of bear hunting that we were doing, and that anybody at any physical fitness level can do this type of hunt. And when I hear from non-hunters, specifically females, friends, they have two issues: being out alone in nature or being in nature by themselves. And I don't have the ability to do that. I'm not very fit, or I don't go to the gym all the time, or whatever it may be. And in the film, we used a truck, we used a side by side, an ATV, we hiked, we walked. We would climb into cut block areas, and you can take your time. You don't have to run up these hills or run down them. So I think that's really important piece for me too, as well, is inspiring them, encouraging them to just go out into the unknown and take those steps, regardless of how confident you feel in those two aspects. And you know, this type of hunting, in my opinion, there is a little bit of a sense of security. And some people might say, oh my goodness, being around bears is not secure. But, so if being in the wild is something that you may have some fear around, just knowing that you have a vehicle to go into or a wall tent to sleep in, it can help someone get through those fears that they may have about being out in nature or remote areas. So I think that a bear hunt would be a really great first hunt for someone who is a new hunter.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And, when you were talking about like the area, Rebecca, and accessibility, my first bear hunt was in northern Alberta, spot and stalk, very different terrain. This was also spot and stalk. And it was so fun to hunt bear in such a different environment. And Rebecca mentioned the cut block, and I had never, ever navigated a cut block before. And I did. I really took my time, and they were super patient with me. But, here I was hiking with a woman who's like super fit, and she and her husband are basically mountain goats. And I had to, plod my way through. But it was a great thing that I learned, that Rebecca helped me learn. She taught me a whole bunch of techniques to use when we were going up and down in the cut block. And so I learned, I love learning new things. So it was great to have a whole different way of doing it that morning. I'm not going to say I loved it. It was pretty uncomfortable, but, we did it. And it was a great spot where we sat waiting for the sun to rise. But yeah, I agree. Bear hunting is so much fun in so many ways, especially if you can really appreciate the environment you're in, and especially if you have the opportunity to see bear, which we saw so many bear over our days of hunting. And to watch their behaviors and their interactions, they're just lovely animals to observe. And there's so much about bear hunting that I love, and it was perfect type of hunt for us to do.
So,
it really was. Oh, sorry, Kyle, go ahead.
no, I was just curious, Renee. So, you talked about how you were an adult onset hunter, but now a pretty experienced hunter by all accounts. You've done a lot of hunting. What was the experience like coming to BC, a new environment, not having hunted, like this before? And then on top of it, sort of, you talked about the mentor being the mentee. What was that experience like for you personally?
Yeah, well, coming to British Columbia to hunt was awesome for me as a Canadian and an Albertan, former Albertan. And so, it was fun to just kind of learn the process of how to be a hunter in British Columbia as a citizen of Canada, but a resident of the United States, and what I needed to do to satisfy all my legal requirements. And then to be able to just come home to Canada, to the beautiful province of British Columbia, into this absolutely spectacular area that the Peters love so much, and be introduced to it and experience it. That was all phenomenal. I was delighted to be hunting back home in Canada. And yeah, you're talking about mentorship. It's really interesting. So our program, Women Hunt, like I mentioned, the second prong is the mentorship and working with the chapters and affiliates to help find mentors for the women. And some of them already have somebody in mind, and Rebecca did in her case. And that's works perfectly. But the other thing too is, Rebecca, a short while after coming out of the course, had called me up one day and asked me if I would be interested in mentoring her, like one-on-one, providing mentorship to her. And I was so touched that she asked me, and I was so pleased to do that. And so we entered like a formal mentorship relationship. And over the course of about a year or so, or a little over a year, we had regular calls, and that journey, it was so much fun for me as a mentor to help Rebecca where she asked for it or needed it, and see the the seed of her idea start to take some root and flower. I know I'm being kind of allegorical right now, but anyway, and start to blossom and grow was really fulfilling for me. I love the giving back portion of Women Hunt. I just love it. It's my favorite part of all of it. And it was such a pleasure to mentor Rebecca and watch that growth. And I'm so excited to see what Women Shaping Conservation is going to do in BC for women and beyond, and I always love collaborating with the society, as you know, Kyle, and with you, Rebecca, on Women Shaping Conservation. And so for Rebecca to have invited me to hunt with her in the reverse role where I became the mentee was really exciting for me. I actually was like, won't this be fun? I get to just, learn and have somebody guide me, but not be a guide. But help me on this hunt, and teach me, and expose me to so many new things about this area and this style of hunting bear. We had talked briefly, and my recollection anyway, Rebecca, about how there might be a squishy adjustment there when we reverse the role, and and it's just part of life when a mentor becomes a mentee and a mentee becomes a mentor, and that shifts. So I loved it. It was great for me. I kind of enjoyed sitting back and waiting for direction. Honestly, it was really nice change.
It was very different. And, you're always going to be my mentor. I really want to say that. And I really appreciated you giving your time to allow me to talk to you about the things that I had no idea what I was talking about or that I needed direction in. And it definitely helped me to grow and to shape, my experiences in ways that I never thought that they could be. To be really honest, I knew that after the program, if I didn't take what I learned, if I didn't take what I learned from the program, if I didn't get into mentorship, and if I didn't start giving back right away, that I felt that over time that excitement might slip away. And so I forced myself in a good way to just throw myself into all of these situations that I had never done before, and know that I'm going to make mistakes along the way. Like I told myself, you're going to make mistakes along the way when you're doing this, Rebecca, and that's okay. But just keep going forward and learning and asking questions. And I'm so grateful for that. I really, really look up to yourself and Gray, the foundation of Women Hunt, because that allowed me the confidence to move forward and, being proactive in my own community, which allowed me to also continue to give back and be of service, to the Wild Sheep Society of BC, for Women Shaping Conservation, for my friends, for my family, and for women who, love the outdoors and want to learn more. So, yeah, we've had a lot of great times together too. A lot of laughs on this film. No one said this yet because we were kind of, picking certain questions and stuff, but Man, did we have a good time. We had lots of laughs, lots of conversations. I mean, we came together as a group, the film crew, and then the five of us really, really well. I mean, it couldn't have been a better time with anybody else. So,
Yeah, and on that note, Rebecca, Kyle, you're aware that we involved another alumna from 2021, and that was Brandy Love from Alberta. And that first year, we had 10 Americans and 2 Canadians, and that was Rebecca and Brandy. And the three of us, maybe because we're Canadians, I'm not really sure, but we've all formed a really good, close friendship. And it was really natural to invite Brandy to come along and be part of the hunt with us. She came to observe, and she had never been on a bear, or had she been on a bear hunt, Rebecca, at that point? I don't think she had.
I I don't think so, no.
Yeah. And
I'm
so,
not certain.
yeah, you just twigged that for me, Rebecca, when you mentioned lots of laugh, because Brandy
Mhm.
Love is hilarious, and she was she provided lots of laughs during this film, that's for sure.
So
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
the film itself, can we could dive a little deeper into that? I know that. So this is going to be shown soon, and we'll talk about that shortly. But what can you share? What can't you share? Let's touch a little bit on that and sort of what the film looks like. I guess what can people expect that are going to come and check this out?
Well, I think people can expect to see a great story, some beautiful scenery, really great exploration of relationships, not just the relationships between the women, but everybody involved in the hunt. They're going to see a lot of bears and a lot of grizzly bears. And that was wild, Kyle, and it was 4 full days of hunting. And in that 4 days, we saw 25 or 26 bears, and 20 of them were unique grizzly bears, which, seemed excessively high to me, but I don't know the area. But the Peters told us that that is not normal, that was a really high number to see in such a collapsed period of time. So people will see lots of bears and bear encounters.
Yeah, and these grizzlies in this area are not timid. They're very curious. They'll come by you very closely. And specifically in this area, I think there was 20 grizzlies and 6 or 7 black bears. And last year when Colin and I were in this area, I think we were hunting within 4 or 5 days, the same amount of time. We saw, I think, 9 grizzlies. So you can see the difference in from last year to this year. Maybe it was a particular year. I'm not sure. But I can tell you this, they are intimidating and they are beautiful at the same time. But they're definitely curious and they're definitely not afraid to get close. So we came across some really close calls at times where we were unsure exactly what the Grizzlies were going to do. But of course, we're safe and sound and nothing happened. But it is something for people to be aware of. You know, Grizzlies can charge. They can charge and they can do. They're very powerful creatures, and they'll go about their business the way that they want to.
For sure. And some of the other things, Kyle, too, in the film that, I really love, that people I think will love too, is not only are we exploring the relationship side of things, the camaraderie amongst people who love the outdoors, love hunting. We also, we spend time exploring how cooking the game.
Right. So we each decided to bring a wild game meat to camp. We also met a gentleman there that was doing some fishing in the lake. And so one night I made elk burgers. Renee and Gray brought pronghorn. A gentleman fishing there, he had, I think it was trout. Am I correct on
Yeah,
that?
yeah, rainbow trout.
I sometimes, okay, yeah, rainbow trout. What did Tiffany bring? I can't remember. She had. some type of deer meat.
Axis deer.
We were out in remote areas, but we were eating like kings and queens, and it was so awesome to have that variety of different meats, and which is really for me is really important. I love game meat and fish and all that kind of stuff.
Kyle, if I can add something from kind of a little different perspective, because Colin and I, in many ways, were able to be observers. And, and Renee pointed this out, I mean, Colin and Rebecca, the logistics that they did to put this together was just, phenomenal and exceptional. But the camps, getting everything organized, and this was a unique opportunity. And I think it's important to point out that British Columbia has this, that they, as part of a way to introduce new hunters to our pursuit, is they have something called a permit to accompany. And so this was not a guided hunt. This was, and because Renee is a Canadian citizen, this worked, that Rebecca could apply for this permit, and she could, mentor, as she said, and Renee has said, Renee in this hunt. And Colin and I were really there as just support roles. This was a personally paid for hunt. The Peters and the Thorntons covered that. This is, we're not in the game of paid hunts. So we covered our expenses, and then we reached out to our friends in the industry to help sponsor the film. And we got exceptional support. Mystery Ranch jumped in, Kennetrek jumped in, FTW Ranch jumped in as a sponsor, Silver Core and Tiffany and her husband jumped in as a financial sponsor, and then we had in-kind sponsors. Sitka Gear provided some gear for the ladies, but it was really. It was really incredible to with Colin and Rebecca, leading the charge and the logistics. But then once we got camp set up, it was kind of, as Renee's point, it was Rebecca's game. It was her. We looked to her as our leader. We looked to her as, okay, Rebecca, what's your thought? And both Renee and Rebecca talk about pressures, and you think about the pressure now on Rebecca. Her husband Colin is a very, very accomplished hunter. Rebecca is becoming an accomplished hunter. I've done a wee bit of hunting. Renee is becoming an accomplished hunter, but Rebecca now had that on her shoulders, where it was, okay, Rebecca, what do we do now? And then to compound that, you throw two other men into the mix. Tash and Jesse are producers and the filmmakers. We're all looking to Rebecca on where do we go, what do we do, and when, and she bore that on her shoulders. So it was it was incredible to witness, and I think Colin and I really took to heart the fact that we were there to accompany, we were there to support, but we were there to observe, and that was kind of first and foremost. And I think it comes out in the film. You'll see things that Colin and I do, but obviously we're not the focus of the film, but we were really in the background, and that was I think he and I enjoyed that too.
It's definitely a bit of a dichotomy, right? Because generally, Gray, you're out in the front and sort of the focal piece, and so I thought that was pretty cool that was the focus, that the two of you, which is really important. Was there any mentorship aspect, and I have had the luxury of seeing the film, and I guess there was some where there was, Rebecca was, like you said, hosting. But, I did notice there was a part where Gray was involved there and talking about using, I'm not going to give it away, but anyway, there was a role for the men in there too. So do we want to touch a little bit about that? And because there were so many elements to this film, right?
Yeah.
That I felt was really interesting.
Yeah, and Kyle, that's perfect because one of the other things people will be able to see in the film is the the challenges when you hunt, and for us to have spent 4 days hunting really hard and seen that many bears, it was not without some tension points for sure, and those are explored in the film as well. And that there were times where Rebecca and I just needed to sound something or check something with Gray and Colin, and that's okay, right? It's part of our support. Our husbands, all the men in our lives are part of our support system. And I think while the film focuses on the relationship between Rebecca and I and Brandy, it doesn't exclude everybody else who plays a role in our lives, and specifically during the filming of this hunt. And so, where I think the filmmakers did a great job of capturing where Colin and Gray stepped in and played those important roles. But I will say that they were highly respectful. We asked when we needed some help. We asked, and they were there for us. And they didn't insert themselves. They were super respectful.
Absolutely, Renee. And, we all had our own roles in the film. And I think everyone did an exceptional job based on what your role was. And, Gray and Colin did a really great job of just saying, hey, we're here for you if you need us. They offered their opinions when we asked. And, for me, that was really big. This was my first time, mentoring someone. I've relied very heavily on the mentorship from my husband. And so, he has taught me many valuable lessons over the years, and, such as never giving up and pushing me to keep going, dawn to dusk, it doesn't matter. And, having a hunting routine, all of those things. And I took all of those lessons that Colin has taught me, and I tried to incorporate them in my mentorship with Renee. But I can tell you there was lots of times where I was like, I really have no idea what I'm doing, you guys. Like, I don't know. And I just, for me, I just have to go and do something. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, well, then I'm just going to pick myself back up and try again. And, there was a time in the film, as Colin, so when I hunt with Colin, he's my mentorship. He goes in first, usually. He's usually ahead of me. And there were times on this hunt where I had to slightly lead the way into, the forest or the woods or these trails. And specifically, there was a time where we knew, because of all the scat that was on the ground, that there was grizzlies in this area and they had their cubs with them. And, it brought some fear in me because my husband and I have been charged by grizzlies before. So I'm very well aware of what could happen. And at that point, I just had to just put myself together and just be brave and go in and do it. And so for some people might think, well, that's not a big deal, Rebecca. You have your rifle, you'll be fine. But, the film crew didn't have a rifle. It was just me and Renee. And I felt a sense of responsibility for Renee and the crew. And, I learned from that. I learned as a person, I learned as a hunter that I can do these things. I don't need my husband to lead the way all the time, although it's nice. That I'm able to, do that myself. And so for me, that was a really big thing. It might not sound big, but it definitely was a learning curve for me and one of my pressures for sure.
Yeah. And I just want to add to that, it was really fun being mentored by Rebecca, because women often, and I just mean this in the best possible way, but women will often have a different way of teaching than men will. It's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just a different way. And we've talked about it before. I don't think it's any secret that sometimes women don't want to be mentored by their father or their brother or their spouse or their boyfriend or whatever, because of that communication friction. and but sometimes it works, right, which is great. But there was this moment during the filmmaking where it was the first morning, and we saw a bear very quickly, and this was a new way of hunting for me, as we discussed earlier. So I was just kind of getting my bearings and trying to adjust to the new environment and way to hunt and stuff. And we stopped where we were when we spotted this bear, and Colin was out of the truck like a shot. And I was a little bit. It took me longer, and I don't remember exactly what Rebecca quietly said to Colin, but it was just such a great illustration that, on a temperament level, the way Rebecca mentored me was perfect for me. And maybe that's because she knows me and knew a good way to communicate with me, or maybe it's just naturally we are able to communicate that way with each other. I don't know, but for whatever reason, the way Rebecca mentored me really worked well. So sometimes when you're learning to hunt, or you're doing a new style of hunt, or whatever, you're working with somebody new, it doesn't always click, and how you're spoken to, and it can rub you the wrong way. I think about my first hunt and my first mentor on that bear hunt in Alberta, and he was super calm and chill, and it kept me calm and chill. And then I've had some opposite experiences, but Rebecca was for her, whatever her journey was, and those emotions that she was processing through all those days and those pressures, she was very, very calm in speaking to me, which is what I respond to. And so it worked perfectly. She was very similar to my first mentor in that sense. Super calm and chill, quiet, calm, no pressure. So it was perfect.
It's actually what works for me too, Renee. I resonate with that calmness, because I do feel calm, and not to like shoot shots at my husband, but he gets really excited. He's got like this energy about him, and it's so intense. It doesn't even matter what he says. I can just feel the energy. But for me, I need just a little bit more calmness, and I can, otherwise I'm just like shaking and trying to figure everything out. So we did have some funny moments like that. I think I was in the back of the truck, and I said something like, "Colin, let her get ready," and it was very calm and relaxed. So we had some really funny moments, and we weren't laughing at the time in these moments in the film. We could laugh at them later on, but at the time, we were there to hunt. So
But Colin is a comedian, man. He makes me laugh.
he is a funny man.
Yeah.
He is, yeah.
So the film now, is this for women? Is it only a women's film? Who can come and watch this? Who would you encourage? Is it designed for youth? Can anyone enjoy it?
Oh, I think this is accessible for anybody. So it focuses on two women who are hunting, but the themes are universal to all human beings. And, it would be no different than if it was two guys on a bear hunt. I would want to watch that, right? So I would suggest that the gender of the players isn't what's material here. And it's a film that speaks to anybody.
Yeah, I would agree with that too, that this is a film that speaks to everyone and encourages everyone to get out and, be a part of conservation and hunting. And it's a great film for that, I think.
And then the added bonus, Kyle, is that for women who may be considering entering the hunting and conservation space, or may have questions about predator hunting, or maybe just, what it's like to do this sort of thing in that environment, it also is a great film for them to watch and help break down some of those barriers they may have consciously or subconsciously in their mind around that. And my hope is, as we premiere the film and continue premiering it in different locations and finding alternate places to share it, and that we can spark more dialogue and engagement for women, obviously, but for anybody.
Very cool.
Yeah, and I just want to add that it's also really important that although our programs are more focused around women, our goal and I don't want to speak for Renee, but I'm pretty sure it is that our goal is to create awareness. And in doing so, we also need men to participate and be supportive and encouraging to their aunts, your uncles, your children, whoever it may be, that to help inspire and encourage women to continue on this path or start this path. So
Very cool. Great comments. So did you guys kill a bear or what?
You'll have to come and see.
yeah.
So just for our listeners, we talked about this, that you have to come and see the film. We weren't going to talk about the outcome. But on that note, for somebody that is maybe a little sensitive about hunting, about seeing blood, somebody that's a little bit sensitive about bear hunting or predator hunting, is it safe for them? And I know I can't, it's not giving away whether you guys were successful in harvesting an animal or not, but is that something that, it's a bear hunting film. Are we going to see dead bears? What's the message there to somebody that might want to come and watch this?
Kyle, maybe I can chat a little bit on that, because it's very much in line with a position that our board of directors, and you were intimately aware as vice chair of the board of directors of the Wild Sheep Foundation, a position that we took this spring. And obviously we deep dive in some other podcasts or at other times, but we as the Wild Sheep Foundation, pride ourselves that, hunting is more than the kill. And sadly, and this is us as hunters that are doing this, we've often diverged from that, and we focus on what we say it's not. We say that the hunt is the campfires, the camaraderie, the people, the cultures, the sights, the sounds, the smells. But then what do we focus in on? A kill shot. And so I think the Wild Sheep Foundation has taken a real strong leadership position of bringing us back to the essence of why we hunt. And again, not to say that there was a bear taken or not on this film. You're going to have to come see it to see it. But we did take a position in June that at Wild Sheep Foundation banquets and our events and films we sponsor, we're moving away from the kill shot. We want to focus more on what we know the hunt is all about. So, this, and quite frankly, any film that you're going to see at the Wild Sheep Foundation in Reno, January 18th, 19th, and 20th, is going to be devoid of that aspect of the hunt. You'll still experience it. You'll still see the joys, the triumphs, the challenges, the failures, if you will. But we're going to focus on the emotions and not the culmination. So, that too. This is the first film that Wild Sheep Foundation, and I think it's very important to point out that this is a production by collaboration of the Wild Sheep Foundation, the Wild Sheep Society of BC, Women Hunt, and Women Shaping Conservation, who teamed up with generous sponsors to produce this film. Filter Studios did an exceptional job in telling the story of this hunt. And what we would like to say is more than just a hunt, because that's really what this all should be. It is the story, it is the people, it's the location, it's the challenges, the fun, the laughter, the tears, and there's a little bit of all of that in this film, and you're going to see it premiere at the Sheep Show in our Full Curl Cinema.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about that, actually, where people that want to see this, where they can come and see it. So Renee, maybe talk about Sheep Week, and then we'll jump into what's happening in British Columbia after that.
Yeah, perfect. So we're really, really excited to be premiering the film at Sheep Week this year. And for people who are going to be at the show, we're going to be premiering it on Saturday, January, oh my gosh.
20th.
20th, thank you. It's going to be at 12:30 in the Full Curl Cinema, which is room A6 at the Reno Sparks Convention Center. And at that premiere, it's going to be hosted by Jana Waller from Skullbound Chronicles and Robbie Kroger of Blood Origins. And then Rebecca, myself, and Brandy will be there. And we're going to be available to answer questions afterwards. But, Jana and Robbie first are going to be leading through a discussion and a viewing of the film. We're super, super excited to have them being involved. And it's a real privilege, actually. Jana, is a great hunter and a passionate predator hunter, and in particular bear hunter. And she knows both of us, Rebecca and I, and she's really, really happy to be hosting this. And Robbie's a new friend and partner, business partner, and also such a privilege to have him be part of it. But I'm excited to hear what Jana and Robbie develop for this premiere, and their pros, and it's going to be, I think, a great conversation with them.
It's very exciting. So somebody that wants to see this, obviously it's at Sheep Week. How do people get involved? Do you have to buy tickets? You mentioned the time and date, so that's not a problem. But
Right.
How does someone go about if they really want to see the film?
No, it's entirely free. People can just free to attend the film. So for those who are interested, when you come to the show and you come to the exposition hall, that's where we'll be. And there's going to be promotion of all the films that are going to be featured in the Full Curl Cinema. And ours is one of many, many great films that are going to be played there over the 3 days. But, we know there's no purchase required. Just show up and come have a good time.
Right on. Now, Renee, typically at Sheep Week, Women Hunt has held other events. They've held panels and that sort of stuff. Are you holding that in addition to the film itself, or is this kind of the one thing that's being held?
Yeah, we're doing things a little bit differently this year. So we will have, for the second year, we'll have our Women Hunt booth on the Expo floor, manned by women who've gone through the course with a focus on this most recent course, the 2023. And then we also are leading the organization and delivery of the Full Curl Cinema again, so that you'll see Women Hunt volunteers there helping Chef Joshua Schwenke of Gastronomy Outdoors in his delivery of culinary classes. Our volunteers will be working in other areas to support the foundation where the staff of the Wild Sheep Foundation have identified they have need for volunteer help. So you're going to see Women Hunt alumna all over the show over the course of the 3 days and in the evenings in the banquet halls. And then specifically for an activity this year, our focus will be on premiering Beyond Bonds and the discussion we'll have there. And I like to keep things fresh every year. My seminars are always different every year, a different approach and a different style. And so this year, this is what we're going to do is launch this.
And Kyle, if I could just add a little bit on the Full Curl Cinema, you've heard us now talk about it. It is a new aspect and feature of the Sheep Show. And we're turning a seminar room, a large seminar room, into a theater, draping it off 4K video, theater style audio. And what would the seminar or a cinema be without popcorn? So free popcorn to enjoy. Come in if your feet are tired from running around the exhibit hall, grab a cold beverage, pop into the Full Curl Cinema, enjoy some popcorn and see some exceptional content. It'll kick off on Thursday the 18th. It goes from 10:30 to 4:30. We have 6 films in the Full Curl Cinema there on Thursday. We've got 4 films on Friday from 10:30 to 3:15, and then a big day, and that's where Beyond Bonds, a Women Hunt story, will premiere, and that's Saturday the 20th. It'll be, as Renee pointed out, 12:30 to 1:30. We have 3 other exceptional films. on that day. One of which is something certainly near to your heart, Kyle. Transmission will also have its debut at the Sheep Show. It's been played throughout North America to wild acclaim, but we're gonna show it in the full curl cinema as well. So. Great opportunity, new for us. We've played films at the show, obviously, before, but this is something a little different. We really want to create a theater-like experience for folks to see new content, and there's a great deal of new content, but also some other films that you may have seen in the past.
Very exciting, Gray. Renee, on that note, I do know there's a trailer for Beyond Bonds. Is there somewhere we can send people to sort of whet their appetite and sort of get them excited about it? Are we able to share that in this?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Kyle, how
It's
about
on
if
YouTube, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Could that be
Yeah,
a link
okay.
in the episode notes?
You bet. We'll put that in the show notes for sure. So
Okay.
yeah, we'll include that for people to sort of get some excitement about the film, and the trailer in itself is amazing. And then for Women Hunt, if somebody's interested in the program, if they want to get involved, where do they go to see that, Renee?
Yeah, thanks for asking. And yeah, like Gray had mentioned earlier, the new hunter course, which actually now is called Field to Fork, is just one aspect of Women Hunt, and we have some really exciting developments coming up in the next few months, shortly, right after the Sheep Week. But where people can connect with us, the best way to connect with us is through Instagram and Facebook. But we also have a YouTube channel, and on the Wild Sheep Foundation's website, you can navigate there, wildsheepfoundation.org/women hunt, or if you just want to land at the wildsheepfoundation.org, you can navigate to Women Hunt right there on the landing page. But we have some great content on Instagram, some really fun things that get posted there, and we have a great social media manager, and that's a great way to connect with us.
Awesome. Yeah, you do a phenomenal job. I enjoy watching all your content, and always exciting. And I know Sheep Week's always an amazing time for content too, so there'll be lots of great stuff coming out. Rebecca, let's segue a little bit to British Columbia. So we're going to see the film in January at Sheep Week, and if people north of the border want to come check it out, what can they do? How can they see it?
Well, first, I just want to say I'm very excited about Sheep Week. That all sounds wonderful, and it's going to be lots of fun. So I cannot wait until the new year. Even though we're still haven't gone through Christmas, the new year cannot come fast enough because I'm really excited about that. For BC, Beyond Bonds, on February 2nd, we're having a Northern fundraising event. It's called the Friday Night Kickoff, and the event is in Dawson Creek. We'll be premiering Beyond Bonds. And if you're interested, you can purchase tickets through the Wild Sheep Society of BC's website, or you can contact me directly. Our second event is also in February, February 22nd to 24th, the Salute to Conservation and Mountain Hunting Expo. I'm very excited about this. On the Friday, the banquet dinner, we will be premiering Beyond Bonds. So it's very exciting. And then on the Saturday, February 24th, in one of our seminar rooms, we will be premiering and showing Beyond Bonds, followed by a Q&A hosted by Julie McQueen. So such an honor to have her do that for us. So some really exciting times for women shaping conservation and Women Hunt in the new year here, and some available dates that you can choose to come and watch the film if you like.
And Renee, you're going to be up for that, right? You're going to be part of that Q&A session as well, along with yourself, Rebecca. Is that correct?
Oh, right. I'm sorry. Yes. So along with the question and answer period after we play Beyond Bonds at our Salute to Conservation event, myself, Renee, and Brandy will be there as well for a Q&A. Sorry, apologies on that. I missed that.
No, you did say it. You just didn't say who was on it. So I was making sure Renee's there because that's awesome. Always going to be a great addition to that to have that for sure. So, okay, well that's that's kind of given us an overview. Is there anything we're missing on the film beyond Bonds, Women Hunt, Women Shape Conservation, or the foundation that we need to touch base on here before we let everyone get about their day?
Well, once we do these premieres, we've kind of done the teaser. We're slow dribble it out, but once we do these premieres, the film will be on the Wild Sheep Foundation YouTube channel. It'll be in the Women Hunt YouTube channel. I know it'll be on the Wild Sheep Society BC YouTube channel. So we will broaden the scope of release, but we want to get these premieres and that excitement out first.
Awesome, great. Sounds amazing. Renee, for anyone interested in Women Hunt, you guys have your intake for your. Is it field to fork now? Do I have the terminology
That's
right?
right, yeah.
For field to fork, what's your intake period for that?
We don't have our dates set yet, Kyle.
Okay.
But it'll be in the spring again, spring 2024. Okay. And we'll make announcements publicly online, website, and social media. Happy to share that with you when the committee has made that decision. But we're looking forward to another great year next year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, to both you ladies, thank you so much for this fantastic film. I love it. It's amazing, and I just cannot wait to share it with the rest of the world. It's an incredible job that's been done. Hats off to the foundation and our leadership at the society for supporting this film, for our great sponsors. Just a great message. And like you said, this is a film for everybody, and it's very there's a ton of storylines. There's a lot going on in there in the short 20-minute film it is. And Filter's done an amazing job of producing it again. So really, really excited for everyone to enjoy it. And I want to thank all three of you for your time today.
Thank you.